Everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. The FCC has released version 3 of the Broadband Serviceable Location Fabric, and they have opened up their broadband data collection window for internet service providers to start providing where they provide service. Be right back with all the details. Thanks for joining me. Rick Uzzi here with Broadband Deployment News. So you see here, broadband data collection window opens July 3rd. So this was a couple of days ago. So I have linked to this in the description of this video where you can download the doc or PDF or the text version of the public notice. We'll take a quick look at the public notice here. So you see here, released July 3rd, Broadband Data Task Force announces opening of the third broadband data collection filing window and availability of the June 23rd, 2023 Broadband Serviceable Location Fabric. So this is the third version of the fabric that attempts to identify every single broadband serviceable location in the United States as well as U.S. territories. So basically every structure that is supposed to be getting broadband is supposed to have a little dot on it right on the roof line, right at the center of the roof line of that structure. That when you pull up the FCC National Broadband Map, it should show you that it's a broadband serviceable location. Then the second part of that is, now that that fabric is available, this updated version of the fabric, internet service providers now need to go in and update their filing to show which of these broadband serviceable locations that are in their area, well, I should say which of those broadband serviceable locations are in their area. In other words, they can serve those. So anywhere that they can serve with a standard installation. A standard installation would be what they say is like under 2 weeks. So the idea there is that somebody can call and say, hey, I understand you offer broadband in my area. I'd like to get signed up. And then the broadband service provider should be able to come out and install them in roughly 2 weeks without any crazy charges. So it's not the kind of thing where it's like, okay, it's going to take about a month and we got to drill, you got a long driveway and we got to have to bore through that and up a hill, and then it's going to cost you $10,000. So it's not none of that. It's like, you're kind of passing the home and you can do a installation if they're not already connected. So again, that would be kind of a standard installation. So you see here, the broadband data collection filing window for submitting broadband availability and other data as of June 30th, 2023 opens today, or that was on the 3rd, Monday, July 3rd. Starting Monday, July 3rd, facilities-based broadband service providers may begin to file in the BDC system data that reflects where they have made mass market broadband internet access service available as of June 30th, 2023. So that's important. So if an internet service provider, they got a month or 2 months to do this basically. So if they're just about ready to launch service, those don't count. It needs to be where service was provided as of June 30th, 2023. So if an internet service provider is rolling out a new area, but it's not yet available, but it will be in a month, that's not supposed to be in here. It's supposed to be just those areas that were available as of June 30th. All availability and subscription data must be submitted no later than September 1st, 2023. So that's the deadline. So this is the third iteration of this. So broadband service providers, this is something, sorry, that you're going to have to do every 6 months like clockwork. The first couple iterations were difficult for sure because you're having to match your addresses with location IDs in the fabric. They were kind of hard to match. So hopefully after being through this a couple of times, you're starting to get a rhythm down on how to do this, because this is going to go on forever. The first few iterations obviously was to try to get all of the data in here so that we could determine for the very first time where we have service at these broadband serviceable locations in the map and or in the fabric. So that was kind of a trial and error getting that information up there, and hopefully it's getting more accurate each time. And eventually it's going to be very accurate as far as what's going on right then, because after we make additional challenges and changes to the fabric, and there are additional changes in this fabric, and after there are additional challenges to broadband locations that are served, then this is going to be fairly accurate until obviously something happens, like a new service area opens up, a new neighborhood comes in, and that's going to have to be added. So that's why internet service providers in the future need to be keeping this up to date. Plus they can have service plan changes, right? So it could be that their service area hasn't changed. There are no new homes in their area, but maybe they upgraded service. It used to be 500 meg and now it's a gig, and that's now their max advertised service. So they need to they need to then have that be what is reflected on the map. So there will be changes. It's an ongoing living document and map, so to speak. Let's see what else was in here. The new version of the Fabric incorporates data from the updated data sources and other improvement efforts conducted by the FCC and CostQuest. And the results of the Fabric challenges submitted by state, tribal, and local governments, broadband service providers, and the public through the National Broadband Map. So this Fabric is different from the last one. It's going to be improved over the last one, again, taking into account challenges from these various entities that they talked about, including the public. So as the public has gone into the National Broadband Map and they could challenge their own home, for example, and make a challenge that, my location's not on the map, or it's in the wrong location, or they could even challenge the speed that was supposedly submitted up there, supposed advertised speed. They could challenge that. And that information could be reflected and could be different now. So all of this now, that's another reason that internet service providers need to look at this carefully now, because there's been, I'm sure, some additional challenges and things that means that the Fabric data that you're working with now is going to be very different from what you worked with in the second version. So you're going to have to take this new Fabric, do everything that you did before, which means matching location IDs to your addresses. In some cases, those there's new IDs, there's maybe IDs that are no longer on there. So again, you're going to have to go through this, but hopefully you've been through the process enough where you can now, depending on how you're doing it, you now can more easily do a spreadsheet match where you're matching their CSV file of the Fabric to your CSV file of where you can serve. Or if you're doing polygons, then you've got that process down where you know exactly, where graphically on the map your service area is, and you can match it up more easily. So it's going to take time, but it should be better than the last few times. So it says we encourage, changes from previous versions of the Fabric include additional broadband serviceable locations. So again, they've added those. And corrections to addresses, unit counts, building types, land use, and geographic coordinates. So all this has changed that you need to take into account. We encourage filers to submit their June 30th, 2023 availability data as soon as possible in the filing window. This will give filers an opportunity to address any problems with their data identified by the BDC system in time to make any necessary corrections in advance of the September 1, 2023 deadline. And then important to note here, failure to timely file required data in the new BDC system may lead to enforcement action and/or penalties as set forth in the Communications Act and other applicable laws. So I'm sure that their leniency is they're going to be less lenient now that this is the third time we're going through this. And the very first time, some internet service providers maybe didn't get the message that they needed to do this, and the FCC reached out to everybody. In some cases, they weren't quite sure how to do it, so they were late because they couldn't figure out how to match all the data, or they did it incorrectly. Maybe they were listing just locations where they actually have customers versus every location where they can provide service, because it's supposed to be every location where you can provide service if you're an internet service provider. So, there should be fewer errors, and everybody should be aware of this now. So anyway, so that's important news for if you're an internet service provider. This is something that you need to be looking at right now. And again, you've got until September 1st to do this. And these dates, this is going to be ongoing on these dates. So you'll see it, you'll see this particular window every year, and then it'll start again basically January 1st, and you'll have January 1st through, I guess it's March. To get that done then, and then you'll see it again at the end of June. So it's just going to go on and on. But again, it should be easier every time. There'll be fewer changes to the Fabric every time. Eventually, it will be, again, just probably new locations, or I suppose if houses are torn down for some reason, maybe they tear down some houses and build a mall or something like that. All that stuff's going to change over time. I went ahead and also linked here to a blog post that I did a while back when this first was happening. Just in case if somebody's watching this, because that's the other thing is there's internet service providers that have been through this a couple of times, but there may be some new internet service providers that have just recently launched or that are going to be launching soon. And maybe you're watching this and going, what do I need to do? So there's some FCC assistance available here for broadband data collection mandate. I wrote this a while ago, but I think all of the links, I didn't check, all of the links still should be good. Provide some FCC resources to help with this process. So there's a link to their help site. I know that's still good. I checked that out. There's some other information. There's some tutorial videos on how to match your location data. Again, a FCC help page on text matching there. So a link to that, because again, it's very possible that new internet service providers, those that are just providing service, or that will be very shortly, or that are looking ahead, because there are going to be a lot of new service providers with the BEAD money coming out, maybe some municipalities, some rural electric utilities that are going to be getting into the business, that this is something you're going to have to do as well. It won't be, so in the beginning, you're going to be basically determining where your service area is, and you're going to have to look at the fabric and all of the addresses on there, and you're going to have to match what your service location is to that. And then as you get your plans, you're going to have the information there provided that goes in the fabric. And what that is, by the way, is there's a location ID in there, and there's your address. So you're going to have the location ID there. You're going to have your marketing name, however you market the service. What else is it? Have to have the maximum download speed and upload speed advertised. So, and that's a point of heartburn for a lot of people, is that it's not some kind of tested speed. It's the maximum advertised speed that you have, both download and upload. So, and if you're offering a gig by 500, if it's a little bit less than that, it's not a big deal. But where that becomes an issue is an internet service provider. Maybe they're providing DSL service, and they're saying they offer 100 by 20, but you probably don't get that, especially if you're, let's say, far away from the central office, or even not that close to the central office. You can not get that. So it's important at those kind of 100 by 20, or certainly 25 by 3, where somebody would be unserved if they don't have that. It's important to get that data accurate, but it's the maximum advertised speeds that need to be reported. And then also latency is your latency. It's basically a yes or no. It's your latency, 100 milliseconds, under 100 milliseconds round trip, and it's either a yes or no on that. What type of customer is it business or residential, or a combination? If it's some MDU, what's the unit count there? That should be in the fabric, I think, but I think that goes in your reporting as well. So there's not much that you have to put in there, but you do need to match up your addresses with the locations, and then record that information. And then the FCC will take that data, and then in a couple of months, we'll see a kind of a new iteration of the national broadband map that takes that new fabric data and the new broadband coverage data from internet service providers, and that will then be updated into the FCC map. There'll be changes over time to the FCC map as subscribers make challenges and those kinds of things, but in general, it's going to be kind of an every 6-month mass update to the map that would take in this new fabric data and this new coverage data from ISPs. So we could be looking for that coming a few months after the September window closes. And I think it was in like December last time. No, it was November. It's like mid-November, November 18th, if I remember. So I think like mid-November last time is when the iteration of the map came out prior, or that was after the prior window. So it's the same time frame right now. So we should be looking about mid-November for the new map to come out. All right. Well, I appreciate you joining me for Broadband Deployment News. If this was interesting, if you give me a like on the video, I'd appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, click the subscribe button, click the bell to be notified. And by the way, next week, if you're an internet service provider, or if you're a broadband office, this will be very interesting to you. For BEAD funding, there is a cybersecurity requirement. So each state needs to get an attestation from any subgrantees that they conform to a cybersecurity framework by NIST. It's like a national security framework. And so you have to conform to that, which means you have to have policies in place, you have to have procedures and plans, and you have to do everything that you say you're doing. So you have to be able to have intrusion detection and be looking for issues and being able to respond to those. So I'm going to have on with me Travis Abrams from UNS, and he and I are going to be talking about this cybersecurity framework, this NIST framework, what it is, what you need to know. It's going to be a 2-week thing. We're going to do it on Tech Tuesday, next Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Time. So I forgot to link to it, but I'll go ahead and put a link in the description of this video as well to the first of those videos that are coming up next Tuesday. So again, if you're an internet service provider or a broadband office, that would be of interest to you. So Anyway, I'll put that in there in just a few minutes. Thanks again for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.